Picture yourself on the hunt for a new job. After scrolling through numerous job postings, you finally land on one that seems to be a perfect fit. That's until you see the required years of experience, necessary certifications, and a host of skills you need to be proficient in. In 2023, 42% of employees felt they were excluded from job opportunities due to a lack of formal qualifications or experience.
Real quick on this is my experience from other hiring managers and whatnot. Whenever you see like the job postings and all the experience they're looking for, the certifications, skills, qualifications, it's a wish list. For the most part, it's a wish list. So if you find a job that you want to do, not just do it because you need a paycheck, but a job that you specifically want and want to do it, apply for it anyway. Because these wish lists, they're freaking crazy. It's like entry-level job with 5 years plus experience and all these certifications, degrees, whatnot. They're just looking for the perfect candidate. And a lot of it discourages people from applying for these jobs. I say apply for it anyway, because what's the worst they're going to say is no? You already told yourself no if you didn't apply. You might as well just throw your resume out there, your application. Of course, take it seriously. Actually apply for it. And you never know. Maybe the hiring manager will be like, dude, we finally got one person who applied. Let's give them a chance. Let's just go through the interview and see. And boom, there's your opportunity, right? This has worked for me in multiple high-paying jobs.
You need to be proficient in. In 2023, 42% of employees felt they were excluded from job opportunities due to a lack of formal qualifications or experience. Lacking enough of the right experience, skills, credentials, and/or education ranked second among the biggest barriers for job seekers in 2022.
The job market today is definitely tougher than the job market we've seen over the last couple of years.
Many job seekers don't know what they're qualified for and feel that they're unqualified for jobs even that on paper look like a good fit.
Meanwhile,
She just said it. A lot of it is, I believe, is to discourage people from applying for the job. If they feel like they can't do the job, they're discouraged, not going to apply for it. They're going to have someone who they think is closest to the best, perfect candidate, hoping that they'll come in through the pipeline, and then they'll hire them. Sometimes there are some people who just checks all the boxes, but even if you check some of them, apply for it anyway.
companies say they are putting skills first.
There has been a shift over the past few years towards skills-based hiring, with employers far more concerned about employees' experience and skills than even their degrees.
46% of companies plan to increase their hiring in the first half of 2024 because their current employees lack the required skills. 79% of workers and hiring managers said that skills, experience, and past accomplishments are more valuable than credentials and education.
There's two things I want to say about this. It should be no surprise that companies want people who are skilled at the job rather than what a degree says, right? If you're able to do computer work, your Microsoft Outlooks, Microsoft Excel, Adobe softwares, all of those, that's what a lot of companies are looking for. So if you can demonstrate those skills, like although you may not have the degree, but you have all these skills that you excel at a very high level. Outlook in and out of it, Excel in and out of it, Word, PowerPoint, all of these that these companies need, that they need someone with these skills for. So it's no surprise to me that more and more companies are saying we value skills way more than a college degree. A lot of companies still value a college degree because that kind of demonstrates that you're capable of critical thinking, you're capable of using a computer, all the softwares that I mentioned, plus more. But of course, the quality of education in universities is not there anymore, right? It's not what it used to be. Now people are going through like easy degrees, English, communications, easy degrees that don't really pay off. And a lot of companies, they just say, nah, I don't need these people anymore. I just need someone who actually knows the actual job.
I think right now we see businesses working together and trying to identify what are the skills that are really necessary to do the jobs for which they're hiring today, and to be able to predict the jobs that they will be hiring for in the coming months and years.
So why are job requirements becoming more demanding? And what implications does it have for both job seekers and the economy as a whole?
The US labor market has cooled in recent months because overall economic activity has cooled. We had a big bout of inflation, and the Fed raised interest rates to slow down the economy to allow supply to catch up. As a result, the labor market has slowed down as well.
Hiring rates in the U.S. have dipped to 3.5% in March 2024, following hikes during and after the pandemic. Total job postings declined more than 15% at the end of 2023 compared to the year prior.
There's also a lot of junk job postings out there, which is unfortunate. It's hard to identify which of these are fake ghost job postings, but they're generally just vague for the most part. And companies do this for whatever reason. They like to show like they're growing or whatnot when they have zero intent of hiring or filling that position, right? And it's frustrating, and I get it. I also don't believe like the government stats anymore of like where we are unemployment wise or what jobs are needed, whatnot. I feel like those numbers are kind of skewed, especially when it comes around election season.
There was one open job for every active applicant on LinkedIn in 2022. By the following year, that ratio turned to one job for every 2 active applicants.
When there are more candidates on the market looking for jobs and less jobs out there, the job market becomes more competitive for job seekers. But for employers, that means they get their pick of talent.
If a job says that it requires no experience, but 100 people apply and many of them do have experience, well, of course the employer is going to take the person with the most experience. We also are in a high interest rate environment where companies have less access to capital, and so they're less prepared to take a risk. They're only hiring where needed for sure bet jobs, and they're not being that experimental anymore.
If I was running a Dairy Queen and I'm offering the job, let's just say it's $12 an hour, and I have 2 candidates, one who has no work experience whatsoever, but the other one has some experience. He just came from, I don't know, Ben & Jerry's or something, right? No, Baskin Robbins. That's a competitor. Ben & Jerry's is like the actual thing you get at the store. So Baskin Robbins, that's a competitor to Dairy Queen, and he knows how to operate a machine, a cash register, whatnot, and he's willing to do the job for $12 an hour. I'm going to hire that person, 100%. That means I have to spend less time training that person and bringing them up. However, there's 2 things missing. One is, okay, why is this person leaving Baskin Robbins and coming to work for me? That's a question you need to ask. And there could be a good reason, like you're much closer and things like that. I like Dairy Queen better. I like the products better. This and that, But maybe they just left Baskin Robbins because they got fired for, bad behavior, not showing up to work on time, stuff like that. So it's, while the person with no experience is much more driven and willing to come to work on time, work hard, do a good job, but it's really hard to evaluate that, especially in an interview. You would think the person with more experience would be like, hey, I don't want to do the minimum, or I don't want the minimum pay, rather. I deserve $13 an hour. Then, some companies will say, you know what, I'll just take the guy who's $12 an hour, and I'm willing to take 2 weeks to train him. By then, that person should be good to go.
Another reason why, and that is about the hiring process per se, which has changed. Employers increasingly got rid of recruiters.
2023 saw a sharp decline in online job postings for job recruiters, with several prominent companies like Google, Apple, and Amazon laying off a significant number of recruiters and employees in the HR department.
The recruiters were the kind of professional people who understood the job market, understood jobs, and would go to the line managers and say, hey, this job doesn't need 5 years experience. With those people gone, there's no real pushback on hiring requirements. Line managers who really aren't experts on this stuff, they might ask.
They're the middle person for the hiring process. It's like, hey, I want to just talk to the manager right away. In the first interview, not the recruiter, just the manager, and let's see if we can come to an agreement. If they like me and like the skills and what I have, not go through like, okay, interview with a recruiter, and they don't know the job for the most part, because there's so many different departments. Like, I don't understand recruitments for a lot of times, so hopefully someone in the comment section will mention why recruiters are necessary. The one thing I could think of is like my current boss, my manager, is just way too busy. So I can understand that they depend on a recruiter at times, But sometimes my manager is like, oh, I can't do it. It's taking too long to get someone. I'm going to just do it myself. So I just don't understand.
Ask their team, what do you think you need to do this job? And they say, well, it'd be nice to have a master's degree. Well, somebody who has 5 years experience, that would be great too. And so the requirements inflate, and then they can't find anybody to fill the job. And they say, oh, there's a skills gap. There's a problem in the labor force. And they don't raise the wages either, right? So you're trying to fill the same job at the same pay, but now you're requiring more background, more experience, more years of education. Guess what? Hard to do.
This is why I say just apply for the job anyway. If it says they want someone with a master's degree and at least 3 years experience, well, you might have a bachelor's. But let's say you have 7 years experience and you want this job. Apply for it anyway. You don't know if the manager is going to look at it and say, I'll give this person a shot. Why not? I know they don't have a master's, but they have a lot of experience that can make up for it. And have a good cover letter. Because some of them do read them. I know a lot don't, unfortunately. But some of them do read them. And you could just explain right there. Like, hey, although I lack a master's, but I have all this experience. I'm very enthusiastic about the position. I know it in and out. Yada, yada. Sell yourself. You might get a shot.
As companies grow more selective, 54% of recruiters said quality of hire will be their top priority for 2024 through 2029. 83% of chief human resource officers said they're hiring talent with specialized skills while hiring fewer new employees than.
Why wouldn't you? Hold on, let me go back. 54% of recruiters said quality of hire will be their top priority. Why isn't it not always their top priority? Like, you want the best candidate. Like, for my house, if I need someone to say fix my roof, you bet I'm going to look up all the reviews to see and see who can do the best job without trying to rip me off. Or if my air conditioner breaks, right? Of course, I want to look and see and research who can do the best job. And it's not always good to find someone who is willing to do the work for the cheapest amount, because maybe they're trying to build a clientele, but they're very clueless, or they're very passionate. But just like anything, quality of hire, that's always a top priority. What's this next part? 64% of chief human resource officers said they're more often hire talent with specialized skills. Yeah, I believe that. There used to be a precedent of, hey, we want someone with a college degree, then the skills. Because then we'll train them. We have to train them anyway of how we do things. But now people saying this skill is like well known across a lot of other fields. So we want skills and the education go here. Of course, they're going to want both for the most part for the top candidate.
Skills while hiring fewer new employees than they did a year ago.
What we're seeing on LinkedIn is that for employers, skills are becoming a priority. 73% of recruiters say that is a priority when they're trying to source candidates. They want to know what skills they have, what they can actually do.
What employers want is evidence that you can actually do the work. The other thing,
evidence that you can do the work. This is super important. I have to tell you this. Everything is keyword search. Companies are going to get hundreds of resumes, hundreds of applications, right? So it's very important to read the job description and look at the skills and the keywords that they're looking for and put that in your resume or your cover letter or in the application field. This way, whenever they run through a keyword search, like, okay, do they check let's look for people who check all the boxes that we're looking for a quality candidate, you will be up there. They don't always look one at a time with resumes, especially if they're dealing with hundreds of them.
Is they want somebody who's done exactly that job before and not something that looks quite similar.
Hiring for entry-level and less specialized positions dropped from 79% in 2022 to just 61%.
Typically, when the labor market slows, entry-level workers are hit a bit harder than overall workers.
We don't have real entry-level jobs, hardly at all. Every employer wants to hire somebody who's already worked someplace else.
This is a catch-22 because entry-level work is basically someone with basically little to no experience. And of course, like, why even post for entry-level and you're asking for all this experience and education, right? Well, I guess like entry-level, if you just got the degree, like say computer science, and you applied for a job that's entry level in computer science, because you first need the degree to get the job, right? They're not just going to pick up someone after high school for the most part. But I get that. Another piece of advice that I want to give you guys is that if you're looking for an entry level job, you just got out of college or something, don't just only be applying for jobs. Demonstrate that you're applying these skills elsewhere. Like you're freelancing or you're helping a small business with their needs on the occasion. This way you're keeping your skills polished, and demonstrate that on your resume and cover letter.
Entry-level jobs only account for 2.5% of all the jobs posted on ZipRecruiter as of the end of April 2024, and just 1.9% of all jobs available today say they do not require experience at all. Over a third of employers refrain from hiring recent Gen Z college graduates in favor of older employees, with more than half saying recent college graduates are unprepared for the workforce.
This is why they're going for unskills, because there's so many, I don't know, there's BS degrees out there for sure. And if you think you have a BS degree, you should change it. The harder the degree is to obtain, the probably better it's going to pay off. In addition, quality of our education, it's so low, right? It's a lot of classes are BS electives and easy classes to get through, and it's just, what employer cares, right? They just care if you can do the exact job that we want. We don't care about the history classes you took. We don't care about the arts classes you took. We just care, like, do you know what this job requires?
A survey also found that more than half of Americans who graduated from a 2-year or 4-year college did not apply for an entry-level position because they felt unqualified.
Apply for it anyway. Just apply for it. What are they going to say, no?
Many entry-level job seekers find themselves in a catch-22. In order to get experience, you need a job. But in order to get that first job, you need experience. And that is a very challenging position to find yourself in.
I mean, I just said this, right? Like, I mean, it's so true. I've been there too. So if you just got out of college, just like figure out a way where you can sharpen these skills too. Like, kind of like real life, real situation. So if you're working in IT and you're trying to get a job at a corporation IT, maybe you can help a small business with their IT solutions real quick, just side gig, something that helps sharpen the skills. Like, what is it, like Fiverr or something? Offer your skills there. Just something that demonstrates that you're applying yourself and keeping your skills polished. And you can count it as experience too.
57% of general job seekers between 2020 and 2022 also said that a lack of skills or training prevented them from applying for a job they wanted. 84% of unemployed workers said they are interested in more opportunities to learn more skills.
The United States does not have a robust system that enables us to support the kind of upskilling and training that workers need throughout their career in order to advance.
The federal government spends very little and has little control over education and on training too. There are some pretty big training programs the federal government pays for, but it's not really where the action is. It's state and local governments. And those have been squeezed, and in many states, they're squeezing everything down, less and less spending.
OECD countries on average spent 0.11% of their GDP on training their workers in 2021. In comparison, the US spent only 0.03% of their GDP on job training.
Honestly, I say good. Get the training yourself, learn somewhere else. And this way you can be above the competition that's out there. If everyone else is getting this training that's free, right, because the company is issuing it, then this, that skill is saturated, because then everyone qualifies for it. But if you're one of the few who's qualified for it, they're going to look at you first.
One of the reasons we may not see as much on-the-job training in the US as we see in other countries is that we rely on the private sector to do a lot of our training.
The employers have largely given up on training, particularly compared to where they were 30 or 40 years ago. They're not developing talent internally. They're looking outside to hire people rather than to promote them from within.
And there's a good reason for that. Our labor market in the United States is very, very, very flexible. You can pour a lot of money into an employee as an employer, only to see them leave after 2 months or 3 months. And so there are disincentives in our labor market for employers to make big investments in workers, especially after the Great Resignation, when so many people were switching jobs very quickly.
That's such a good point, because me in my early 18 plus days going to college. I worked at like call center jobs that I hated so much. I lasted maybe like 3 months or so, and they provide 2-3 weeks of training just for me and people very similar. Just say screw this and leave. That's a huge investment for a company. That's a loss. They didn't get much return out of me, and I understand. Like, the job's super stressful. It sucks. They didn't prepare me for that in the training, which they probably should, or they try to explain it the best they could. You don't understand until you're actually in it, though. So I understand that like employers would want to hire someone who's done the job and understands the job versus training them. But there's still going to be some level of training.
There's also a huge mismatch between the skills employees have and the skills employers are looking for.
So I think we have a huge skills mismatch problem in the United States with lots and lots and lots of people studying subjects for which there aren't that many job opportunities, and very, very few people getting the skills in trades and industries where they're in very, very high demand.
Right now, there are more people that have 4-year degrees than there are jobs for which businesses are hiring with that requirement. At the same time, there's too few people who have been able to access the kind of training or skills programs that enable them to get jobs that require more education than a high school diploma and less education than a 4-year degree.
Believe it or not, it's a lot harder to become one of those skilled trades than you would think. The union training programs are great, but they're a smaller proportion of the economy by a lot than they used to be. So if you want to become a welder, in many places, the community colleges are your maybe only choice, and that becomes like a 2-year degree program. Community colleges don't, we think, cost that much, but if you don't have the money to pay for it, it's a burden.
Jobs that require skills training are really the backbone of the economy. We saw this during the pandemic. We see it today still with transportation and the supply chain. And the businesses that hire these workers are creating jobs in our community and are really growing local economies.
A lot of these blue-collar work, specialized skills blue-collar work, I've been hiring a lot lately, of course, because so many people are going to think, oh, I'm going to go to college and have a cozy office job. By the way, those cozy office jobs are soul-sucking. They suck. The cubicle lifestyle, oh, God, they're horrible. But there's nothing wrong with going to trade, because that's in such a huge demand, and that's a skill that's always going to be needed. You're always going to need these skilled trade jobs, right? Whether it be a plumber, whether it be an electrician, construction. I mean, there's so many of them that are in demand, and they're always going to be around. Yeah, they're hard labor jobs, I get it, but they pay so well. And they're also very versatile jobs too. Like, say, if you enjoy wood shop, you like making things, like tables, chairs, you can do that on the side, or it could be your primary profession. It could be your own business. It's easier to start a business that way. You can start where you need in construction or whatever, or another company. But you also could take those skills home and build other stuff, sell them online, sell them wherever, and then you just grow both ways until you can start your own business that way. That's just one of many ideas, but you can be your own independent contractor with a lot of these trades.
It could cost the U.S. as much as $975 billion by 2028 if upskilling doesn't catch up with the demand in the workplace.
In order to keep having rising standards of living in the US, we need to do 2 things. We need to be productive, and we need to maintain our competitive edge in the global economy. In order to do that, it's important for workers to upskill and be able to adopt all the new technologies that are available in order to help us stay competitive and be productive.
New skills that everyone's going to require is understanding AI and ChatGPT. That's the next thing. It reminds me so much of like when computers were first introduced. And if you knew computers, you could easily get a job. Now everyone has to have a basic knowledge of how to use a computer now, right? But AI is the next thing. I really believe it. So you always polish up that skill. The ChatGPTs and AIs, be on top of that skill right now.
Despite the challenges in upskilling, more employers are turning towards skills-based hiring. A study from 2023 found that more than half of employers use pre-employment assessments to test their job applicants' skills, knowledge, and abilities, with 79% of HR professionals saying those scores are just as important, if not more important, than traditional hiring tools like resumes and interviews.
Skills-based hiring is when employers consider candidates based on what they can do and not necessarily their pedigree or degree credentials.
Idea is simply, could we go back to just figure out what skills you need and then see whether people are actually have those skills and hire for the skills?
The biggest impact can be seen in the rise of jobs that require no degrees. Major companies like Walmart and IBM have publicly announced their intention to hire more workers without a degree. In January 2024, 52% of U.S. job postings on Indeed did not mention any formal education requirement, up from 48% in 2019.
That's awesome, honestly. Because a lot of these jobs, you don't really need a degree. And the IBM one is a great example. That's a great company to work for. So I hear, right? Say you want to work for IBM and you don't have a college degree. Look at their jobs that they're hiring for. See if there's one that you really want. Read a description of what skills they need. And really hone in on those skills. Whether to learn them or if you apply for the job, really emphasize, I have these skills. I'm very proficient at it. I'm not a newbie. I know this very well.
Share of U.S. job postings requiring 2 or 4-year degrees fell from 20.4% to 17.8% from 2019 to 2024. For reference, just 46.6% of Americans have an associate's, bachelor's, graduate, or professional degree as of 2022.
We're seeing businesses removing degree requirements in a hope of expanding the pool of workers from which they can hire.
Skills-based hiring has shown to be effective in reducing mishires, as well as cost and time to hire, while increasing employee retention by 89%. 86% of candidates also said that skills-based hiring helped them secure their dream job. But whether it actually makes a long-lasting impact is up to debate. A study from 2024 found that only 37% of companies that had increased their share of workers hired without a BA degree by nearly 20% made lasting changes to their hiring. In 2023, skills-based hiring provided new opportunities for less than 1 in 700 hires.
It takes time for a culture shift like that to funnel through the organization to every single hiring manager. So the top of an organization may choose one thing, but the actual hiring manager and interviewers and recruiters may still be doing something different.
Yeah, culture's changing. There is such a saturation of people who have the college degrees. There was one point in time where very few people had a college degree. Now so many people have them. The job market saturated them. And people are getting hired because they have the degree, but they don't know what they're doing. They don't have the necessary skills, but hey, they have the piece of paper, right? So they're going, you know what? Screw this degree. Can we just find someone who knows what the hell they're doing?
Experts say solving the issue of upskilling in the U.S. requires the role of policy.
It should be a public policy concern because we have lots of young people who are skilled and ambitious and want to do things and can't crack that ceiling. And we have employers who frankly are making mistakes. They're just churning through people at sort of lower level jobs rather than trying to get somebody and develop them and hang on to them for a little bit.
And they don't need to be huge economic shifts in how we're spending dollars. It needs to be relatively small investments that help companies come together and have conversations about how folks within one metro area or one rural part of a state are going to be training and developing the kind of workers that they need.
For current job seekers, there are several ways to prepare their applications to better suit the needs of current employers.
I think the advice on this is not new, and the advice is what employers want to see is, have you done this work before, right? And so that means, can I find any situation where I can do this work, even if I'm volunteering someplace or getting an internship that looks exactly like the kind of work I want to do? And if I can do that, my odds on being able to get a job are just much better.
Increasingly, there are lots and lots of cheap, affordable, convenient, accessible online training programs, many of which have a large practical component.
It's called YouTube. How to do something on Excel, right? How to do anything, right?
Also freelancer platforms where you can get experience doing certain jobs. You can often get jobs just by being the cheapest candidate. And sometimes it's worthwhile doing that to build up that experience and get good reviews. So don't feel out of hope. There are ways to gain skills, credentials, and experience that can be affordable and convenient.
For some reason, this is still on topic, but not what she just said. I remember boss probably makes 3-4 times more than me, master's degree, and there's me, not even associate's degree, and they're old, they're making all this money, yet they need my help to convert a file into a PDF. I don't know why that popped in. Anyway, let's look at some comments. Imagine paying the insane tuition fees only to finish and realize that nobody wants college graduates, says who's Steve Ballin. That's the culture shift that's happening, right? People are looking at college degrees and saying a lot of these are worthless. I think college degrees are still going to be needed because you're going to need doctors and whatnot, right? Medical doctors, physicians, like specialty skills. I think we're just going to have a better way of identifying specialty skilled college degrees that are in demand versus, yeah, these are BS degrees. You know, there's so many, like I saw one that was like leadership. I was like, okay, that's a worthless degree. There's English and communications. Like there's so many worthless degrees out there and they're easy to do, right? You can tell because you look at it and the requirements for it, they look easy. If the ones that are worth something, that's worth a damn, they're really hard to attain. There's harder classes, lots of math, sciences. Those are the degrees you should be looking at. I swear I've seen something like this. What this SOPA 4279 said. It's a job requirement today. Be like, must be 21 years old, master's degree required, 10 years relevant experience, able to bench 300 pounds, no criminal history, including kindergarten. Salary $25 an hour, no PTO, no healthcare, no oxygen, no breathing. Benefits once a year, pizza party. Apply today. If you are accepted, you will proceed to our 10 round of interviews to see if you're a cultural fit. I definitely have seen job requirements that have asked for crazy requirements and pay little. It's like insane. But keep in mind, like I said earlier, they're just a wish list. That's why I say just apply anyway. Don't tell yourself no. Let them say no. This Emperor Edwards 13 says, how the hell you can get experience if companies are not hiring without experience? I mean, you have to figure out a way to get experience. You have to be creative in this area. Think outside the box. Like I mentioned earlier, maybe there's Fiverr, there's Upwork or something like that, where you can just like provide a service for a certain amount of money. That's where you get experience. And you can highlight that when you apply for a job like this is my experience. I provide independent work. That's why it shows that you have initiative. There's a lot of things you can do to just sharpen your own skills that you can get before you apply for a company. So Terrell Bradshaw 3504 says, so they don't want to train people for a job to see them leave for another job. Okay, understandable. However, if these people are adequately compensated via wages and benefits, most people will stay exactly where they are at and try to move up. Employers have continually tried to find ways to offer less and less to employees, but expect them to stay loyal to that company. That's completely absurd. A lot of large companies will kick an employee to the curb without a second thought, and they wonder why we have these issues. Yeah, I agree with that because the employer-employee loyalty in this country has been just in shambles. You know, it's like, why even have it? Employers have zero problem firing you, kicking you to the curb, right? They don't even give you, but they expect you to give a 2 weeks notice. Like, hey man, can I have a 2 weeks notice before you let me go? I mean, I can go on and on about the employer-employee relationship, especially from large corporations. It might be different with, you know, a smaller company that actually values you. If you actually talk to the owner and boss, you see them regularly, then it's different. But if you have no connection with the CEO, you're not safe. And plus, it's all about satisfying, you know, shareholders or others, right? People are very expendable. Always be ready to job hop. Always be ready for that. Have an emergency savings account. Please have an emergency savings account. Always expect like you're about to get kicked to the curb every time. That's why, you know, I always push entrepreneurship. I know it's a risk and it's scary and it's not guaranteed, but keeping your job is also not guaranteed. That's all I'm going to read for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and comment below. I do read them. And until the next time, bye.